Hello, everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of One Night Only. I am Marisha Ray, your creative director here at Geek and Sundry, and one of the executive producers on Dread. And to give you a little backstory on what this show is, this is going to be our special event monthly series where we hope to bring in some of your favorite fandoms and some of the top people in nerddom for you guys to discuss, chat, and get to know a little bit more about them. And tonight, of course, as we have told you so many times, we are going to be talking about Sagas of Sundry, Dread. We have so many awesome people here, and I cannot wait for you guys to introduce some of these creators and the creatives, and it's just going to be great. I would love to just say really quick, I am so proud of this series. I'm so proud to be a part of it, and everyone that came together. I feel like everyone was at the top of their game, tip of the spear with this one. It's just not often that you get a project that you love everything about it through and through, especially as a hypercritical creative. And last but not least, I would like to give a little bit of a special thanks to Tracy King. She was one of the producers on this. She totally made this all happen. Jeff and Joe from Flip This Bitch, Steve Sprinkles, who did all of our amazing graphics, Jason Charles Miller, who did the music and the theme song, and of course, all of the amazing staff here at LDN and Geek and Sundry, who just worked so many tireless hours to make this work and make this happen. And I would love to ask you, Alpha Chat, if there is something you would like to see on the next episode of One Night Only, tell us and shoot for the moon. If it's the group from JPL that put Curiosity on Mars, if it's Reunion from the Firefly cast, which I'm kind of selfishly want, tell us, and we would love to bring it to you. And I think without further ado, it's time to get this night started. And your host, your moderator, for this evening, a man that needs no introduction, who is always the best dressed and most positive shining beacon of light in the room, the one, the only Darren DePaul. Come on out, Darren!
Hello, my friend.
Mr. Wren.
Thank you, my friend. This is yours.
This
Yes,
this is mine.
This is mine.
Oh, well, I forgot. You're so fancy. You get your own.
Stories. They're what bind us together as a people. There's a Doctor Who quote that I love, that I used on Critical Role. We're all stories in the end. Just make sure yours was a good one. And I think that Sagas of Sundry Dread was a really good story. In 6 short episodes, you took this story and these characters to your hearts. You came at it ready with your spines to be tingled, your souls to be filled, your hearts to be broken, and your minds to be surprised. It is a credit to you guys. That's a tribute to all of you. It's a tribute to our creative team. It's a tribute to our wonderful cast. So, tonight, we're going to be talking about Dread. We're going to be getting to know these people. Some of my friends that I don't know a lot about them. So I'm going to be asking just to find out about who they are as artists and people. It's going to be a really fun night of just conversation. So how is it going to break down? How are we going to do this? Back off, okay? Because you're scaring me. I'll tell you in a second. First of all, if you haven't seen Sagas of Sundry Dread, thanks for watching this, but we're going to be talking about it. So there could be some spoilers and things, things happened in the show. We're going to be talking about them. So get ready for that. Now, we're going to do it in 3 segments. First, we are going to talk to our producer, Marisha Ray. I'm sorry. That's like when I was the spaceship. Marisha Ray, I'm the Felicia. That was a fun day.
It all sounds good coming from you.
Thank you, my dear friend. So we're going to be talking with our producer, Marisha Ray. We're going to be talking with the director, Adam Lawson. We're going to be talking with Ivan Van Norman, who was our fabulous game master, and Apodia Ravishal, who was one of the co-creators of the actual game Dread. So that's our first segment. Our second segment, we'll be bringing out the cast. Amy Vorpal, Matt Mercer, Taliesin Jaffe, Amy Dallin, Satine Phoenix, third Amy, the silent Amy, that you don't pronounce her at the end of a word. Hashtag silent Amy, hashtag third Amy, hashtag let silent Amy talk. And then in our third segment, we're going to be taking your questions. That's our night, and we're really excited. This is the first time we've done this. So with all that being said, these were Sagas of Sundry Dread. I'm Darren DePaul, and this is One Night Only. Internet friends, we are back. We're here and we're excited. We're ready to talk to you guys. And forgive me, I've got to start with Apodia. This game, creating it, how did it happen? When did it happen? What led you to this idea?
Well, Dread is the game, the book that we play from is about 12 years old, but the game itself is about 17, 18 years old, so it can be drafted. It can vote now. It's old enough to. The first part of the idea, Jenga, came to us before horror. We're looking for something other than dice, just something ridiculous to do. And for a hot second, I think it was almost like a noir game. But the moment we put the Jenga down on the table, we realized what we had. We realized the genre that it was meant for. So that's how it got started.
How many people played it the first time when you guys developed it?
When we developed it, there was about 4 of us there, I think. We had I was in college at the time, and
where did you go to college?
I went to UW-Madison, University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Okay.
Yeah. And
go people who like cheese.
Yes. Ironically, I'm vegan, so I'm not one of those.
Oh, okay. We are giving it to the cheese lovers tonight.
Yeah. We played. We had a whole set of rules that actually involved dice that went along with the Jenga that we ignored from the get-go. Oh. So we knew, like, right away, we just kind of scaled it all down. I don't know if you did any Dread questionnaires to make the characters originally. The original Dread questionnaires were at least 100 questions long, something like that.
Just a whole psychological assessment inventory is what you did originally.
It was nuts. And again,
geez, you gave them a personality test.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And then when we sat down to play, it was okay. We're not doing that. We're cutting that out, and we reduced it. I think the book says 12. I know when I run it now, I think I just do like 5. I'm lazy now. I've done it for, again, like 18 years. So
how long was that first session?
That was probably about 4 hours long, I think, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Any highlights? Do you remember any spooky things that may have happened? Or
so we had I set up a soundtrack on these really, really crappy computer speakers that had no bass whatsoever.
Even scarier.
Yeah, and it was like playing in the other room, and it was, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 songs, that was it. But one of the songs starts off with a bass line that didn't come through at all. And then it has Glenn Danzig moaning. And so what would happen...
Also, a lot of songs do.
Yeah.
You don't know that, probably. In The Sound of Music, Glenn Danzig moaning underneath everything.
So you would have this situation where people would go to the tower, and they'd go to pull, and the music would stop because the last song had stopped and this new song had started up. But we didn't hear the intro bass line because the speakers were so bad. And you just get used to no music, and then... Whoa. So that was... yeah.
That is absolutely perfect. Ivan, talk of your love for this, because I know you love the horror genre.
Yes.
So what drew you to Dread? When was the first time that you heard of this game?
Man, so I remember hearing about Dread, ironically, was that when I was in college as well, too.
Where'd you go to college?
Chapman University, behind the orange curtain.
Go people who love the orange curtain.
Yes, the Panthers.
Sometimes people call cheese the orange curtain, even though they don't and never have.
Yeah, orange
until
cheese.
tonight.
Yeah, an entire curtain of orange
Yes.
cheese would be delicious to have. So I love cheese. Well-known fact. Big fan of cheese. But I remember playing it for the first time with a group of around 5 friends, and I remember picking it. Actually, I remember reading about it online, and then I went and found a copy at the local store, which was I found that now is extremely hard to do, as far as just find an original copy at like a friendly local game store. So I picked it up and I played it with my friends, and I think I did a. It's actually a scenario I've played a few times since then, but I essentially did like a retreat at like mammoth kind of cabin situation.
Were you game master or player?
I've never actually played Dread as a player ever.
Oh, really?
Yes, at this stage.
Oh, no.
But I was running essentially like a magic mushroom. There's like floating things out in the forest, and if you actually ate the mushrooms, you were safe, and that was kind of the twist on it. But if you didn't, then like the creatures in the forest would slowly start to mentally mess with you, and there was everything was fine. Like if you ate the mushrooms, nothing would be going wrong around you. But the people who didn't, they'd like watch the walls close in on them, and it would get claustrophobic, or there would just be like beetles that would be running through under the underside of their skin. But they'd be fine, and so they'd be making pulls for madness all the time. But nothing's actually happening in the world. So and the whole point of fulfilling it and being done with it is it would just keep going on and get worse and worse and worse until they went out into the forest and popped one of those magic mushrooms. So,
How long did it take? How long did it take before they caught on to that?
I think it was about 2.5 hours of mind screaming madness until because all it takes is 1 or 2 of them to figure it out, and then they all get there and start doing it. But there was definitely 1 death in that game as well too, and it was because they thought that the walls were getting so close around them inside of it that they eventually they suffocated themselves because they thought the walls were closing in. So,
Ivan, I'm going to look away from you now. Marisha Ray, what made you pick this to become a full-fledged show that Adam directed and had such a great creative eye? What made you go with this first for this new experiment?
Good question. It was me and Sean Becker, who is a fellow EP in this and head of video here at Geek and Sundry, who would probably be up here right now if he wasn't directing this show right now as we speak. So the tabletop day game was such a huge hit, and we had such an outpouring from the community wanting to see more of that. And it was also what we were most enthralled with after Tabletop Day. We were like, damn, this stuff is really engaging. And yeah, we just already kind of had a good example of the cast. The cast worked great together. So we kind of stepped back and we're like, what if we do this, but like on steroids? And kind of ended up just working out. It was actually supposed to be a quick fix.
Oh.
We were like, oh no, we need a show by the end of this month. What are we going to do? Oh, we can crank out Dread really fast and cheap and easy. And then it went poof and exploded.
Yeah. It was supposed to be so small, and it ended up. Oh,
Yeah.
The whole show when they first brought it, where they just Marisha and Sean came to me, and it was like, hey, we basically want you to do what you did for ITTT, but then let's do that for several episodes. We'll try to like build a small set around it. It was essentially just going to be a more glorified version of what the ITTT show was. But then Adam Lawson got involved. Look at that. And then it literally became the concept became so much bigger, and then it became not just, it's ITTD Dread, it became Sagas of Sundry. Like when it became Sagas of Sundry and a whole new concept for a show, it evolved into a whole different thing.
Yeah,
Because Adam, it looks phenomenal.
Yeah, well, thank you.
It's moody and gorgeous and immersive. And speak to your concept of when they came to you with this show?
Yeah, I think when Ivan, and I've done many shows here from season 1 of Tabletop to Spell Singers to Titan's Grave down the line, and I think that as I've been doing each show, I've been pushing it farther and farther and wanting to make it become more alive. And when Ivan said, "Hey Adam, do you want to come direct this piece?" I thought, how can we take the game off the table? And albeit the game is centered around the table, the conversation, the fireplace, but can they get up and actually go to the set? Can they go to the house? Can they find the clue they're talking about instead of just talking about it? And can we incorporate challenges in front of polls at certain moments to take the show, to make it an actual show and an experience versus maybe just friends playing a game? But how could we actually have Darby and Tanner and all these characters come to life in a way where you're like, they're living it now? And so that's when I kind of came up and I said, let's really lock in this 80s feeling with the costume, and we pushed that far. And then at first it was like, hey, maybe there's some bushes around them. And I said, no, we can't do bushes. Let's build a set. Let's go someplace very different with it. And I think that when Ivan and I started talking about the challenges, it really came to life and saying, wait. And then Ivan came up with ideas with challenges, and Marisha, that we could incorporate so that the game got off its feet. And I think that was the heart of what I wanted to get. And then, of course, I had a great team, a great cinematographer, Zach Voitis, who's been with me for a long time, to give it this beautiful, moody, and sexy look. The red light, that was Zach's idea. When I was talking to him, I said, when they open that door, Zach, I need something to come out onto the set that lets them know the danger has become real. And he brought this red light in when we were doing the pre-light. And the way it just touched Amy when she walked up to the door was kind of the magic that we were hoping so much for.
Powerful, man.
And anyway, so that's what I thought when it was firsthand, is how can we get off its feet?
Now, Apodia, seeing it live this way, take it back to when you were in college. Did you ever imagine that it would be so immersive and done as a show? Or was it just like, oh, this is fun for my friends, and...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's hard, because even back then, I didn't even know I was going to make it into a game.
Oh.
Like that was like a little bit of a lie that I told myself to keep working on it. But at that time, there weren't a whole lot of, role-playing started off self-published, but this was before Kickstarter, before iPhones and tablets, and before people bought PDFs. It was the early days. I'm old. I don't know. And
Welcome to the club, my
right.
friend.
So
The old club, by the way.
yeah.
Just straightening out what club people are welcome to. The old club. Hashtag Third Amy.
So it was really hard for me to visualize it as a game until it actually came out. And then once it came out, I wanted to see stuff like that. I was saying before, I really don't like watching people play my games. It makes me very anxious. It's nerve-wracking. And
Why? What does it spark in you? Is it like, oh, they're not doing it right, or oh, they're going to get too immersed, or oh, an actual Goatman will come, maybe with a pizza, maybe not.
There's always the worry of the Goatman.
Yeah.
But I think a large part of it is you're afraid of those moments where it just looks like people aren't enjoying it, because people can enjoy role-playing games and not show it until certain moments, right? They can sit down, they can play the game, and they could be kind of quiet, and then it'll pop out. And when you're a game master, when you're running the game, that can be a little nerve-wracking. But when you wrote the game, that's a whole nother, and yeah, so it gets a little anxious. But then when I sat down and watched this, which I'm going to admit, I just binged, and it was phenomenal. I the red door trick. Okay, hold on.
It's got to unpack some stuff here.
Okay, so the giant Jenga, which was great because it got everybody up and moving, and the whole symmetry of the set, and how you had the campfire in the middle and everyone around it, so it felt like coming in for a campfire story, and then different set pieces would come out and become part of what's going on. Oh, it was theater, and it was gorgeous. That's what, so I did not envision that. That didn't, I didn't sit down and write this game and think someday somebody is going to, put on a TV show based on this game.
So we did your game justice.
Yo, yeah.
Well, that's what Geek and Sundry and Alva and Nerdist have become, this safe space for ideas. And people are willing to be challenged by new things. What challenged you, Ivan, in the telling of this story?
Oh, man. Me. I was terrified of putting that story out there and like seeing the result of it.
Was it too personal?
I just felt like no matter what I did, I was going to be a fraud. Like there was just nothing that I really thought that I could bring into it that was going to be honest and sincere. Like I had such an A-list team of people that I was playing with. My ultimate challenge was making sure that the story was engaging enough that it was really going to make an honest moment out of it.
But I think Ivan, when we were talking about that early on, there was maybe some thoughts about maybe Ivan becoming other characters or dressing up.
Yes.
And I kept fighting that and saying, no, Ivan, I think the magic is that you always stay the storyteller.
Which is true.
And that you owned it. And he did that. And I think when Ivan came to that set, when the team was there, the set came, the lighting, and you felt like you were transported, and as we'd gone over the stories, I mean, he pushed it to places like, as I'm watching all the monitors and watching it happen live, and I'm just like, Ivan, please get up right now and do something special. He was already getting up to go taunt them as they were trying to pull the blocks, you know what I mean? He really lived it in a way that you don't get that much.
Yeah.
Well, it was a great relationship working with Adam because he did a lot of great things to kind of like while I was giving all of the cast permission to make difficult choices and move things forward and create the best character they can, Adam was kind of doing the same thing with me. He was just kind of pushing me to make these difficult choices, or in some circumstances, just look at it in a new way so that it could become an organic, wonderful experience, And with like any show, nothing always turns out the way you absolutely want it to, because there's always things that you miss because there's not enough time.
True.
But it was still great, and it was still it was. I said this at the panel, but it's kind of the best way to describe it at this point. Is like it felt like an evolution. Like as a GM, if I was a Pokemon, like I completely evolved, at that point, because it was essentially a transition. Because it was like I found what I like to do.
And with every episode, you got to catch them all. Marisha,
What were you going to say?
No, I was thinking, and Ivan, what was fun about it is because, we only had a limited amount of time to shoot the show. And so it was not only happening, did Ivan not only have to write and craft it real time, and every now and again I'd look at Ivan and we'd sneak away real quick and say, okay, we're running out of time for this. How do we truncate or maneuver this story?
The same point. We always were literally on the same level.
It's like, can we maneuver this now in a way, these things we thought were super important now have become unimportant, and these things that were small are everything, and that was quite fun.
Yeah, and so of course that always totally depends on what the cast ends up pulling out of it as well. They'll latch onto things and make things more important. And can I just say, I know you totally had a question. You are so good. You are so good. Like it takes a certain skill that I don't think a lot of GMs have, let alone just people. The way you were able to monologue the suspense of the pool, and each time and you could keep going and kept like with the descriptors and the story and being able to keep that up and continues like to ramp it up right as the I don't know, it's just so good.
And what was the funny moment, though, if I can give the spoiler beat?
we just want to keep praising.
Yes, please.
Ivan, there was this awesome, because when we're watching an episode, when I'm there running the cameras, I'm thinking, how can I end an episode, right? Because we're flowing, but how can I end it, and how can I start one in, and how can I transition it? And this episode where Amy does this ritual, and then she has the voice. She hears the voice, and Ivan clamps down his hands on her shoulders, right? Yeah. And I was trying to figure out how I was going to end this episode as we were shooting it, and then Ivan got up behind her and then clamped his hands down on her shoulders, right? He kind of just sensing that dramatic need to do that, and then she screamed out, and he gives that line over her ears, you were right, and then boom, we end the episode. And that was like, and then when it happened on the set, I was like, great, that's it. We can't, don't do anything more. We have it. And that he could sense that, and that Amy also herself was feeling where Ivan was trying to push her to go. She was maneuvering it with the rest of the cast. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to get 2 questions.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Number 1, were you on the set?
I was. Yep. We were there all day. It was
Did
awesome.
you help out with ideas, or were you just observing?
I was just in full producer mode at that point. You kind of, at a certain point as an executive producer, you step back, you let the director, it's his set at that point. He was lead story mode, or story guy. Story mode.
Story mode's fine.
It works too.
Story mode's great.
Too much of a gamer. So, so I was just there. Me and Sean were both there, kind of helping. We basically kind of turned into PAs at that point. So I was helping.
They were above PAs. They were being very effective producers and giving encouragement and staying connected to the cast. Don't let them minimize that. They were doing the proper job, but they were also giving the proper space for Ivan and I and the cast to work.
Yeah,
and so
guys
they were the good kind.
Yeah, we were kind
There's a lot of support here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot
yeah.
of love.
Yeah, we were just checking in with the cast, kind of wrangling, making sure that pictures got done, checking in with them, hugs.
Question 2.
know. Yeah.
The second of my questions.
Sure.
The one that follows the first.
Is that how it works?
I just learned this. Where'd you go to school?
I went to college at Point Park University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I like saying it all because alliteration is fun. Didn't graduate. I'm a good old college dropout, and came out here to chase dreams.
That's what we do. Now, I am not a horror fan. I like Aliens is as far as I go. Horror fans,
Oh, hell yeah.
what horror movie would you recommend to someone that doesn't see horror that much? Evil Dead, love Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead the series.
Yeah.
Evil Dead the cereal.
All of it.
Very good.
It's great.
Hashtag Evil Dead the series.
Evil Dead the series.
Oh, so what
Evil Dead the
horror movie
series is
should I
painful.
see?
Truth be told, I actually still have a hard time with horror movies, like absorbing them and digesting them. Like I tend to be extremely gullible when it comes to the media I consume. Like terrible movies are totally fine with me because I just allow myself the immersion to get in too deep. So with horror movies, if that horror movie is trying to take me on a journey, like I'm going on it, shitty ride or no. You know, and usually I'm like the perfect audience because whatever that movie is trying to do to someone, it usually ends up being I end up being a target audience whether I like it or not. But no, honestly, my last favorite horror film that I watched was oh wow, I'm having a hard time remembering it now. But it was a horror movie that had to do with the caverns underneath. It was The Descent.
That was
Yes.
going to be mine. You stole my suggestion.
Sucks to be you,
So
Marisha Ray.
we have 2 votes for The Descent.
The Descent.
I would say, have you seen It Follows?
Oh, so good.
I have not.
You should. I mean, in
That
the
was
realm.
last year, right?
Yeah. In
Okay.
the realm of slasher films, it is hard to reinvent that, and they did it in an amazing way.
2 for The Descent, 1 for It Follows.
Oh God, I can't. I'm gonna say Get Out because
Okay,
it came out
I
this
will.
year, and that
Oh,
one.
I did see that. That was brilliant.
Okay. Well, if you already saw that,
Okay.
then have you seen the original Night of the Living Dead?
No.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm a dumb face from Stupid Town. Okay, I have many things to see. Night of the Living Dead, The Descent, It Follows. And you know what follows? This segue. Take that roller skating thing for lazy people. That's a segue. You guys shared your hearts and your artwork. And we're going to take a little look at some of the amazing designs and share in the glory of your art. And we'll be right back. Thank you for all the artwork. Thank you for sharing your joy with us. And right now, we're going to share some more joy because nothing makes me happier than being in the presence of amazing people, amazing talent. And now we're going to get to know them a little bit better? You bet. Okay. Hi, friends. The cast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This was an amazing show. I'm going to start, but Matthew.
Yeah, hi.
My dear friend
Oh,
Matthew.
boy. Hi, Darren. Hi.
The immersion into character and staying in character the whole time. Do you prefer that, or do you like to relieve the tension and break out of character? What role-playing suits you best?
Oh, man. I think it depends on the story. I mean, for most general role-playing game scenarios, you want a balance. You want to break the tension. You want to be silly with your friends, a little side talk. You know, it's more of a casual gaming experience. For what part of what made the magic of this show was that everybody invested pretty much the entirety of the experience because and for horror you need that. The tension needs to be released as part of the story, or it needs to build as the intent of the storyteller in this case. Because that's what really, for us as players, what drives us to the boiling point of, you know, preying on our fears and getting us extremely wired and driven up to the point where things freak us out, or fumble a arrow shot.
Tanner's Sacrifice. It would not have been the same show
This is
without Tanner's Sacrifice.
This is true. But no, I'd say this Dread is a type of experience that really benefits from complete investment from the players. It's not necessary, of course, but I think you're giving up what could be a very incredible experience if you aren't interested in going that as far as everyone here did, because we all left. Well, by the time we all had the chance to release the tension was when it was done.
Yeah.
And when it was done, we all went, "What just happened? That was awesome. What just happened?"
That was something that was said over and over again to all of us. And it was interesting because it was kind of like a, okay, what happened? And it was beautiful.
Like a noise Simon would make in the house. I watched the show. Simon's mother, good character as well. I watched the show. Amy, bugs for them or again them? Worms, bugs, crawly
Let's
things.
talk about trust. Let's talk about playing a nice game with your friends that you love, and knowing that whatever they put you through will be worth it. But no, again, yeah, that's to answer the actual question.
But do you think it made Raina stronger?
Yes, it was cool to have, like, because she sort of was the, like, more the wilting flower of the, like, I don't know about this, and so to, like, the more she ended up having to take chances, like, the more fun it was. So and until the one time that I was like, I don't know, I'm having too much to do. Tanner can take this one, and he frigging, like, worst mistake of my life. Like,
No.
but you were so brilliant.
It made for good storytelling, and I have a hard time imagining it ending differently, really, in hindsight. Like, you know, it's sad to leave the game because I wanted to see it through, but at the same time, like, that's a gift as a player to the rest of the story and the rest of the players to carry on with that moment. Like, what better galvanizing force is there to a horror narrative than to lose a core character in the middle of it? So yeah, no, I wouldn't change it.
And to be fair, too, just to credit her on this, too, none of them knew when a challenge was going to come up.
Yeah.
There was never like, oh, well, if I make this choice, then a challenge is going to come in there. It was very, very transparent, so that when they made that choice, then it's like, oh, well, let's see what's behind door number one and wheel it out. So
Nor did they even know there were going to be challenges until the first one started coming up. I think everyone just thought it was going to be like the ITTD day.
But to be fair as well, too, we made it very clear. It wasn't until the first challenge came up. We actually said at the very beginning, guys, there is going to be challenges. There is going to be things that are going to
I'm
test
going to
your
interrupt.
will.
This is what we got. You guys, that's the.
So-
those are the hints we
Just
got.
one massive vowel movement was all you got.
Solid.
That's what it was. All right, I'm gonna. Amy Vorpal.
I do
Oh,
just because I was sarcastic about it. I do
Yes.
want to clarify. Like I enjoy giving Ivan shit about this and will for the rest of my life. But like it is precisely because I've played with Ivan, because we'd had such a good experience, because like there really was trust there. And he said like we're gonna try to push boundaries. There's gonna be some unexpected things. Like we all signed up for that. And like I'm delighted that folks are playing this at home. But like that is key. Like that trust. Like it is a sacred thing, and it's what let us have so much fun. So now I'll go back to being sarcastic at you, you horrible, horrible man.
You're welcome.
It's a friendly space. Save space for ideas. Horrible man. 2 things we've learned tonight. Amy Vorpal, my sun, my moon, my stars, my sky. No
baby.
one could eclipse your dress. Hi. Okay. Question. Is Darby to blame for everything bad that happened?
I will not tell you where to place blame or fault. I will let you make that decision for yourself. But I will say, Ivan and I have been friends for such a long time, and when a GM lets me write, I will go into just the most fun places of my brain. And when Ivan Van Norman says this is a dark game, and literally on the questionnaire, Epi, it makes you write, what is one secret that makes you can't tell anyone because it's too dark to tell you? That gives you license and permission to really go there. So when Ivan runs a game, that game is officially broken and busted to no repair, and I really appreciate that, and I appreciate that he let us create characters that, we took. I feel like I took his diving board jumping off point, and he said, yes, fly and be free, and I said, okay, then I am obsessed with the Goatman.
Now you guys are all friends and you're playing friends in the game. How did that play into this filming? Did you feel freer to make mistakes? Did you know that they're going to have your back?
Absolutely. I think I want to point to one, I can't remember which episode it is, but it was a Darby Sat argument, and it was messy, and it was raw, and it was gross, and someone described it as in public when you see people fighting and you know that they love each other, but you also hate it so much and it's so uncomfortable and awkward and you want to turn away. You know that they are not saying, what they're not saying is way more important than what they are, and that felt so real, and Sat and I think fell in love in that moment for real.
That's true. Well, the first thing I think I remember saying when we all walked into that room, because I had been hyped up because Ivan and I were just, we had some plans. And the first thing I said was, I am so sorry, because he said I could push boundaries. And I was going to go, and there were things. And that moment was...
I also want to say I think I recall like just before the final episode we were on our 5-minute break and you're like coming down and you looked me right in the eyes very seriously and went, #Darby was right. It's like, oh God.
Taliesin, my dear friend, I have a question for you. Can Caden be redeemed? He did some stuff.
He did. Caden was based off of a lot of kids I knew growing up, and like me during a really unfortunate 6 months before I got my head out of my ass. So yes, because I know most of those kids, and they grew up to be fine, upstanding adults, or at least reasonable adults.
Does this traumatic experience make him a stronger person?
It'll
Or does it break him?
Oh no, it didn't break him. I was expecting it to. I was going in there not expecting him to walk out whole at all, but
I think he'll at least have a couple good months, and if he's good and the things go well, maybe this is the beginning of getting his shit together. Or he's going to slide back into being terrible. But hopefully, I think this felt pretty traumatic. Maybe this was enough to kick him in the ass. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to. God only knows.
What do you need?
Man, you never know what's gonna.
He just died in the forest on the way back to the city.
It's just some hunter just. Yeah.
He got a splinter.
Satine, hi. I'm okay. I wear suits. We just met like 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, but we did say hi on the internet.
We have said hi. Now, my question is, Tanner, Raina, Darby, Caden, Sat, was this story about you? Is this a real story based on your past?
Is that commercial time? Is that what that freeze
We
frame
don't
was?
take commercials here. Oh, no.
Well, it's funny because Sat is a combination of when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to playing Outbreak Undead with this guy. So he's like, hey, we're going to make a character. I'm like, okay, I'll just do the personality test. And then so I'm playing me, but also it was a mixture of me and somebody else I know. So, yeah. It was also interesting because you guys don't know, but you were all pieces of people that I knew in my past. So when it was like, hey, Sat, you're going to get your friends together to go camping. I was like, oh, you're this person, you're that person, you're that person. So, yeah.
So in many ways, it is based.
For me, in my head, but I go there. So
When you role play, is that what you do? Do you like to take from real life, or you'd like to just go total fantasy?
It's real for me. When I'm in it, I'm in it. I don't know how to not be me in the thing. Even if I'm playing D&D or something and I'm playing some weird character, it's still me.
Yeah, the commitment to character by everyone, just amazing. It's what I loved watching. It was thrilling.
That thing that happened, you guys don't know, but when I was rewatching it, that episode.
Episode 4?
I believe so.
I watched the show.
I cried so hard, I screamed at the top of my lungs, and I was so happy you guys turned that volume down or turned the volume off because I was like, that's not going to sound good. But that was real. I'm not a good actress, but I love playing games, right? So
But
for
you are a
me,
good
that
actress.
was.
You commit. You're in the
It
moment.
wasn't acting though.
I will say that this plays to what you were saying about making it part of your story. Even if you're playing a character, and I find that for people trained as performers or as actors, a large part of the training is finding a root or a piece of yourself that's honestly within that character. No matter how different they are from you, you root yourself in that one point, that one pillar of honesty, of a relation where you can see yourself as that character and then go from there. And that's what allows you to commit entirely once you get comfortable with that space. Actors are more trained at it, but anybody, if they can find that root point, can do exactly what Satine did and fully dive into that. You find it a place where you can relate and where you can understand why you're so similar to that character, and then build, and that's where you get lost in it, like we did.
Yeah, a lot of acting training is just the tools to get there. Which is why you do have people who sometimes can just, and especially with a crowd like this, it's so easy to get lost. Everyone brought so much to this. We all every time. The hardest part for me was taking food breaks because I was like, I can't get out.
Yeah,
it's
we're in that place already.
It's too much. Oh God.
Yeah, an interesting element too is when you've committed to character dynamics and relationships that are very different from the relationships that you share with these people, when you all trust each other to that point, then I don't know, it's a really curious, strange, intense place. Talson's one of my best friends. I've known him for so long. I've never had an argument with you.
No.
And I walked into that room that day hating you.
And I enjoyed pushing those buttons.
I know.
So
it was delicious. It was
It was scary. It was really scary, but I liked it.
Well, talking about relationships, was that the first time, right before this thing happened, that Tanner told Sat that he loved her? Do you think this? Yeah.
Yeah, no. The way that I'd kind of developed the story for Tanner based on our first kind of impromptu International Tabletop Day game was They grew up very good friends at a very young age, like 6 to maybe 12 years old, were best inseparable friends, probably lived on the same block. And then as kind of puberty hit and everything, we all began to discover or changes that we went through as young adults, as teenagers. Our paths diverged so heavily. And he's always kind of carried this torch as not just his best friend, but this person that he always cared for. And then watching what the world was, in his opinion, which I don't agree with. Mercer doesn't agree, but Tanner was frustrated with how the world was changing her and saw Caden as one of the heavier forces of taking her in this direction that he didn't want to see her go. And in a way, taking...
It was that classic, and we talked about this a lot. It was like she was the girl next door, and there was a lot of the Caden stuff was mostly just like watching your friend go down a path that you don't agree with, but unwilling to abandon.
Yeah.
You know?
I had no idea. Until that moment, and I was like, oh, wait, what? Oh, wait, what? Oh, wait. And then the whole thing fell apart, and it was just like, no, avenge.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I knew.
She had no idea.
Yeah, I didn't want her to because it was totally in Tanner's head. It was this whole kind of construct in his mind that would never have crossed her path because he would never want to broach that subject with her. And it was just all the stuff he was keeping within himself and containing. And it was just that one final moment where there was nothing else to say that he finally said it.
Yeah.
That one. That was the
Number one. Yeah.
Speaking of nothing else to say, you heard a lot of stuff that nobody else heard. Hashtag Goatman, Silent Amy. Silent Amy's the Goatman in this scenario. I've just decided. Talk about that experience.
The Goatman's adorable. If it's a combination of both of us, the Goatman's adorable.
He's just dreaming. But speak to that relationship that you had with Ivan and delving deep into that wonderful, wonderful Gothic horror.
Yeah, when we sat down at the campfire for the first time and everyone started revealing the difficult year they had, it was very compelling to me that I was like, oh, we all had very similar experiences where we were all shut out. And in my character creation for that year, I decided the only thing Darby, because she had some suicidal tendencies beforehand, that she would have leaned into not belonging. Like, oh yeah, I don't belong? Well, then I really don't belong. And in fact, the only thing I do belong in is in the experience that I had, and that was, we shared something with the Goatman. So going in with that, I don't know. I don't think I wiped a smile off my face the rest of that time. It was very difficult as much as it felt so, it was the ultimate redemption for Darby after everything, even her friends saying, yeah, well, no, like saying no to her, everyone, which she was used to. But getting told no so many times, I think a person can only take so much. And then to finally get told yes. But
there was a person next to you that wanted to say yes the whole time and provide strength and love.
Agree to disagree. That woman was not standing by Darby the whole time, and I think there was an arc there, but.
There was totally an arc there.
There was definitely an arc there. So eventually that was redeemed as well.
Yeah.
But
that's what makes a great story.
I think. You know what? I think arcs make a great story. I think we should write
Noah
this
would
down.
agree, and a whole bunch of animals apparently. 2 of each.
I just jump in, like,
Not dinosaurs.
I just want to say, like, you gave me so much to do. It was like the greatest gift that I could have. Because, like, going into the planning for this, Ivan sat down and was like, well, we need to figure out what everyone's been doing. And he had already talked to you a little bit. And he had sort of said, like, he didn't give us the full version of anybody's story so that we'd be surprised, but there were parts of what you were going through that I would know, where it's like, he basically said, like, Darby had this incident and, like, has been trying to contact the Goatman. And it was just, and nothing was ever so fast where I was like, oh, okay, I have to stop you. Like, that, I mean, to the casual observer, that's a terrible idea. Like,
It's getting heated here.
Oh, my favorite part is on Twitter when these episodes are coming out and everyone's like, "Oh, Darby, man, Darby's gonna kill everyone." Oh my gosh, Darby's gonna get everyone in trouble, and I'm just sitting back watching this Twitter thing blow up, being like, "Just you wait."
we really didn't. I was the one on the listserv afterwards who was like, "Can we get T-shirts that say Darby was right?" Like,
Darby was right.
You're like, every time we saw it, yeah, Darby was right. Yeah. Wait till they see.
It was so interesting on this side of it to just kind of watch that process go by, because I knew all those stuff that we had talked about in the character creation of, because we basically had another interview after this one to talk about the year, and there was a smaller questionnaire. It wasn't as big as the first one, but it was basically like a follow-up questionnaire talking about that previous year, and we made notes and everything. But I knew which direction you wanted to go, but you were the only person who, it's like, as soon as we sat down on the table, it's like, all right, you know, because there was so many ways that could have gone, but it was so good.
Well, and that was one of the coolest parts, right? Is that when you guys stood up that very first time to pull the brick, you made the announcement of what you were putting at stake, what you've done that last year, where your character was, and you get to see the wheels turn in everyone's head as they heard the stories, and kind of magically in that moment of when the first brick was pulled, we built the stage inside of their heads and hearts, and it was pretty cool how I could just see the faces go, oh, that's my part of the story. That's my piece. I see how to relate to them. They all picked up on each other. It was pretty amazing.
I had no idea you were going to figure it out.
Well, you know what? The whole story, like Darby had it figured out. She knew the Goatman was real, 100%. Then she encountered her friends, and her friends beat her down. And there was a moment too where Tanner said, "Darby, let's just say, what if you're wrong? What if?" And Darby relented, and she was like, "Yes, okay, you're right. I will go there. I will go there. What if this is all weird and shitty? So yes, I'll go there." And then the argument with Sad and the relationship break with Raina, and then Caden just being a dick. It broke her down, and I don't know if it comes across, but the whole time the knocks on the skull, she didn't believe it. She half believed it and half didn't. It was a kind of a last resort, and I think that's why I don't remember Ivan getting up and coming behind me. I was just knocking, and that's why it surprised me so much, because I was like, it's not going to work. And also, it's worth noting that ritual wasn't over when I counted to 21. There was one last thing I had to do, and I thought I had said it, but so that's why it surprised me so much. It just wasn't over, and she half believed it.
I knew it wasn't over. You told me, and that's why I asked you explicitly, like, what are all the things you need to do to complete this ritual? Because there was, in my brain, as soon as you said you're going to do this, it's like, oh, it's so good. Yeah. This is the right time for this. And it was perfect.
Taliesin, would you have had the ritual? Would you have done it? Your character, Caden?
It depends. It entirely depends on who it would have undermined.
Would he ever want to be the hero? These are 5 friends. Yes, they disagree on some stuff.
He was deeply. I suppose the trick to a character like Hayden was he was deeply and completely depressed. He was in a deep depression that had been lasting a very, very long time. And when you're somebody who's in that state, one of the things that happens is you start to get this weird dysmorphia when you watch people interact with each other, which is that. Things like caring and loving interactions look fake, or they look like you start to wonder why people are interacting a way, who's getting what out of which relationship, and like why they're trying to manipulate the other person. And he was at this point, he was like beyond the point of feeling any actual like love or care for any of these people. He was mostly just trying to find ways of undermining the relationships to prove that they weren't real, finding ways of undermining people's emotions to prove that they weren't real, and if they did prove to be real, finding ways of just taking it out of pure envy, not out of any desire. Like he was very...
Like even before the events of all this, most of you were living in your own horror story.
Oh, yeah.
And yet everybody came together, and some survived, some got stronger, Some stayed the same.
I think on my sheet I said I didn't care if the goat was real or not.
Yeah, that was actually the part that I loved. That's when I first knew that there was really something great happening. Is that when all 5 of you already had a story to tell before you even got there. Like there was something so awesome about this, just this hard choice decision making that you were all into, and this element of like each one of you not knowing but all being so close. It's that perfect story of like friends who just need to talk but aren't talking, and like hearing Caden's side of it, and then where you two were at, and then Tanner's stuff that he was going through, and like Sat's struggles. All of it was just we could have just written a chapter on each one of you and the terrible story that you were. Like you're absolutely right, Taliesin and Darren. You all were in your own horror story before this even began. It was a nightmare even before the first frame of that show was shot.
Well, let's try something else. Satine, on set, most joyful moment and most horrifying moment.
I don't enjoy horror films. So,
Swing out, sister. I'm right there with you.
Being inside of one is the whole thing is the most terrifying thing.
Oh, really?
Because I can't walk up and leave the room and walk in a circle like I have to do even when I'm watching like romantic comedies or horror movies. Is what I do to make myself feel better. You can't do that when you're inside of it. So
is that a ritual? If you go to a horror movie, you go outside and walk around 3 times?
It's like I have to leave the room, and then I have to go. This is why a lot of people don't.
That tune kind of sounded like "Swing Out, Sister." Bringing it back is what I'm doing.
Yeah, the whole thing was terrifying, which is why I really liked it, because it was this place that I was safe because I was with people that I trust. I went and pushed my boundaries that I haven't even contemplated pushing in years. It's not like when you're a kid and everything is new and fresh and boundary pushing, and now it's like it was exciting. It was terrifying all at the same time. Every episode, there was amazing things. When I scream cried, it hurt, but it was exhilarating. When there was this one moment I had to amp up. Okay, I'm going to yell at him. I'm going to yell at him so hard. And then
I sobbed at you.
Fell crying, and
fell apart.
All these emotions. I was like, I want to hold you, but I'm amped up and I can't respond properly. All of those feelings. I feel so lucky that we got to feel all those feelings, and then we got to watch them later. That's weird.
Because you all are amazing actors, and you were in the moment, and you were committed. So I'm going to ask, down the line, acting school, where'd you go?
Art school? Academy of Art?
Oh, where?
San Francisco.
San Francisco. Excellent town.
Crossroads, Theater Performing Arts. Also, I was a child actor, so I pretty much worked nonstop.
Where is Crossroads?
Santa Monica, California. Lots of odd people came out of there. But I've been professionally acting since I was 7 months old. I've been working forever. So.
University of Oklahoma.
Community theater kid and University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Community theater kid and workshops for a long time. I don't have any of your fancy diplomas and shit. Couldn't afford it.
Okay. We're miming. Let's talk about some other stuff. Matt, what was your most exhilarating moment on set?
Oh, man. Following the instincts of the character, you know, as a player, you know, there's the need, the urge to survive, to go through the story. And yeah, from a logistical standpoint, it made more sense for, me to try and share like the shots or the pulls with the group, and people were like begging me to do it, but I was like, Tanner wouldn't. Tanner he's the self-sacrificer. He's the idealized martyr in his head. He's the classic, in ways kind of reminds me of me when I was a teenager in some ways, where like, actually, no, that's not true. He was more righteous than I ever was. He saw, I think, in himself that because he didn't believe that anybody else would make that sacrifice, it almost made him a better person to do it in a weird, fucked up way. and it eventually led to his demise, which was kind of an interesting mix with the emotions he was going through at the time. But it was like, no, I'm better than you, so I'm going to go ahead and do this myself because you should know that I'm a better person.
So you basically had a fucked up martyr complex.
Yeah.
When we're role playing, do we want to play the best of ourselves? Do we want to say, this is me, but I'm going to go 3 steps up?
I think when you begin to role play, yes. I think when you're new to the experience, a lot of it can be fantasy fulfillment. It can be wanting to just be a hero. And I think the more you do it and the more you begin to grow an interest in the human condition and what makes unique, very complicated characters, you begin to find the fun in the other choice. You begin to find the fascination, the interest in taking the road less traveled and bucking that instinct as a person and more follow through the instinct of a character. And that was kind of, I think, what drove a lot of us through the story, to find such unique and different and unexpected relationships, dynamics, and stories, and why we all came out of it going, whoa. Whoa.
It's also why they feel so real, character, because people have flaws, and yeah, you're right. I think in your first characters, you always want to be the A-team hero badass who's just awesome. But especially with something like Dread, when it lends itself to this kind of horror film teenage element, like one of my favorite things was episode 1. We just started filming right out of the gate, and Ivan and I knew, we all knew you guys were coming in with all this baggage, and that you guys were gonna have a thing, and who's gonna have a fight, and it was first episode right out of the gate, 15 minutes in, and you guys are screaming and ripping at each other's throats, and I remember oh wow, that typical high schoolers, man. Typical high schoolers.
I told Marisha actually later. I was like, man, I gave them all this ammo to work with, and they just chain gunned it all over each other.
Yeah, we thought you guys were gonna draw it out, but no, it was let's do this! Oh, ripping each other's shirts off, just screaming.
Well, what were you? Speak to this. What were you guys like in high school, as you guys? And did you use any of that experience in being the characters? You're looking at me terrified. If you want to be exempt.
No. I was so inconspicuous, and I was a hider, and I was in theater, and I was the lead in all the plays, but my personal life, yes, my personal life was so, I never went to parties, and there was one time when I was up for person. I know, I was up for the same superlative, and a cheerleader turned around and said, I voted for you, and I almost started crying, and I went home to my mom, and I was like, they were making fun of me because I didn't believe that person voted for me. So that's who I was in high school, just complete self-doubt. But I did wind up pulling a lot of myself from I pulled from myself to create Darby, is what I mean to say.
But I've seen of you a very strong, incredibly funny, very committed. Where did theater bring that out in you?
No, age did. That's it. It was just time. It was time, and other people telling me that they are also socially anxious and don't believe that they belong anywhere. So if everyone doesn't belong, then maybe I do.
That's what we said. This place is everybody belonging. Yeah. You come in here and you're accepted. Bring your ideas. Bring your love. We have a place for it.
And speaking out about it, and that literally people telling me I also feel like I don't belong, but here I am. I'm like, great, you're my people. And then someone going, are we all having panic attacks? And we're like, yes, we are. And they're like, great, then here we are. So saying that out loud is actually quite powerful.
Yeah. How about you? Yeah. Also, my job. Give me a second. How do I want to do this? How about you?
I didn't initially draw too much on me for Raina, because Raina was my idea of I hung out with all the artsy kids, but I was just extremely square. I used to and for the record, kids, smoking is bad and don't smoke. And I didn't, but I used to joke that I had a secondhand smoke problem because I would just follow the other theater kids outside and hang out with them. But I wasn't a risk taker. I wasn't stylish. I wasn't all of this other stuff. I just was fascinated by all these people. So that was kind of my an interesting thing. The fun of making dreamy art student Reino for me, it was oh, this is the cool version. But a lot of the instincts ended up being the same because wanting people to get along. I don't know talking about our high school selves are hard. I even at the time, the mix of like wanting to go out there and do everything and being afraid of everything. Like there was one point where I talked to some of my friends, and half the people who knew me were like, "You never stop talking," and half the people who knew me were like, "I've never heard you say anything." And it's just. So I guess that was the already the actor and the role player in me is like liking to be a bunch of different people to different people. That's an incoherent answer, but that's as close I think as I can.
It speaks to how art strengthens all of us. And we need this for our souls. And that's why role-playing is becoming an art form. Thank you for creating this game. You know, it's led to some wonderful talk about our darkest fears, but we overcame them because of role-playing through the game, playing a character, and then finding a way to survive the horror of sometimes just getting through the day.
Well, and one of the unique pleasures of this was that, like, games, and one of the reasons I think that you often start out trying to make a most heroic version of yourself for a game is partly the fun of, like, feeling perfect, and partly that, like, a game is often you're tackling a challenge, and you hope you can get through it. And so you want to bring, like, all the strengths to bear that you can on that. And acting is sort of this fun of, like, seeing different sides of the human experience. And what's so great about this was getting to do both at once. Trying to make a bunch of messed up people and then see if we could conquer a challenge together. Like, and just, this is gonna be very, very sort of actory, but you very rarely, like, when you're doing stage plays, you get to do everything in order. But when you're filming something, you break it all up and you have to keep the story in your head because you're not doing it. No one has ever gotten to do what we got to do, which is just walk in the morning, make up the story, live it, and at the end of the day walk away like totally different forever.
But this could be done as a play. I mean, in New York, off-Broadway, there are many ways to tell stories. I think this is a very valid way of telling a story and letting the audience come back. Like Nicholas Nickleby was done, you came back. I mean, yes, it was not like this where they made up the story, but this is a new way, an exciting way of getting this out to an audience.
Yeah, I think, Taliesin, didn't you come back and you were the one, you were like, I feel like we invented a new form of theater?
Yeah.
Which I kind of think we did.
I definitely, like walking out of there was like, this is like some new crazy form of commedia dell'arte. Holy cow, what happened? I feel weird. Yeah, I feel very altered by this experience.
Yeah,
Well, we're about to alter things a little bit by taking some questions from the social networking platform Twitter, from our chat room, from a guy, Phil, who's over there. Hi. So, our first one, let's see, what looks good here? We discussed that. Here we go, to our players. This is from Innocence. Perhaps there won't be any. What do you think happened to your character after the events of the final episode? How would they have dealt with what happened? What is their epilogue?
Mine's pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Entropy, really.
Yeah, just nothing but entropy.
Lots of rehab. She was a severe addict. I mean, she died from it once. But yeah, therapy. Lots of therapy, lots of rehab.
So is there redemption for Sat?
I don't feel like redemption is like she wouldn't. It's not. She's too deep, too guilty over.
But where does she go? Where does she go for a job? Where is she further down in life? Just a what if.
She probably writes a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of therapy later. In her 30s.
So much therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where Caden is. He sort of, and we didn't really cover. He sort of set fire to his life before he left town. So, yeah, it never really got covered. But he dropped out of school. He quit his job. He let go of his apartment. He got rid of all of his shit. He had nothing left. He was not planning on coming back at all. So
You had the most secrets left at the end of the day, I think.
Yeah, he burned everything. Like he was not expecting to come back. He was on a one-way trip.
Is that why the backpack was so important?
And that's why, yeah, the backpack.
Someone wants to know what the hell was in it.
He built a bomb. He had a bomb.
Yep. Yeah.
You didn't tell me that?
No.
Yep. I was.
Well,
holding on to
apparently
that
a
one.
bomb was just dropped here, ladies and gentlemen, right on this show.
I had a homemade explosive in that bag so that if we ended up with the goat boy, if we ended up with a goat creature, I was just going to blow it the fuck up. and go out like the closest thing as like kind of almost a fuck you to you, like on a weird level.
I'm sure.
Yeah. this was like his version of suicide by asshole, basically. So
The Anarchy Cookbook, the whole
Yeah.
thing up.
May have been the name of your book. Okay. Was there more? Someone would like to know, is there more to the fight between you two that we don't know?
or do we want to go? Yeah.
What happens to us?
We'll go back. Oh, yeah, yes, we should.
Oh, well, I assume. I mean, after so much trauma and actually getting definitely being told that she was right, there's a lot of healing there. So I think Darby and Raina, guys, I think they end up together.
Yeah,
So there is a happy ending in the show.
we fly to San Francisco for the 2 days that gay marriage is legal, like 30 years later.
That's right. That's right.
But like by then,
But I think having that experience and having it together, it's not like they needed to share it with anyone else. Just having that together and that knowledge of the past and being able to go. You remember? Yeah.
Do you eventually forgive me for like not trusting you?
100%.
Friendship is magic. Matthew,
Oh, good.
I'm losing my question here. Cooey,
Hi, Cooey.
I think that's either someone calling us, could be Phil, the guy who's waiting, would like to know, where was that? What happened over the year break? Did we ever find out what happened? Did he do nothing? Would he just mope? Or what did he do over the year
He
break?
went off to college and couldn't connect with anybody. He always played a mother hen to the social circles he was in, which is kind of what I was going with, how it was similar to me in high school, where I didn't belong to any social circle, but kind of was friend and ambassador to many and was kind of an outsider to all of them at the same time. So when he went to college after the experience they all had together, he just couldn't connect with anybody. And all he could do was think about SAC and think about what they experienced. And, as he began to delve into his classes with photography, he was obsessed with the dark spaces in any photo he would take. He would just take photos of darkness and hope that there was nothing there when he developed it. And so he had just like a dark room filled with just black photos or like photos of like the corner of someone's head, just focusing on the dark space behind them. And that obsession was eventually just keeping him more and more isolated from people that were wondering what the hell are you taking photos of. And his first year of school was going terrible because of it. And he was kind of coming back to this to not just reconnect with Sat and hope that maybe she had gotten out of the perceived grasp of that asshole. But honestly wanted to try and confront this, to find his old photos to see if there was any proof there, or to convince himself that there wasn't anything to begin with.
Ivan, did you know about the photos?
Yes, I knew about the photos, and I also knew that all of their school was just rough. And one of the things I really enjoyed about the difference between putting together episode 1 and where it was with episode 0 is going to every single one and like making that. And I say it over and over again, but it's really the best way of describing it is that what's that hard choice of like what happened in between 0 and 1 that just made life really suck in that first time. And it was fun to talk to you, Matt, about how Tanner really, like, he wanted to forget about his friends so bad because they hurt him in such a way, but he just couldn't get away from it. And it became an obsession that he wouldn't act on, but when the first opportunity came up to get them back together, he just leapt up in a heartbeat.
Yeah. It's one of those like, no, I can't do this. Hey, you want to go back? Sure. When?
And it was great. And then being able to have that like unconscious, because one of the questions that I hammered home to every single one of them in that first part is, did you think what happened on that story back on International Tabletop Day, did you think that was real? Do you actually believe there was a Goatman? And everyone had different answers.
There was a guest that day that somehow got sucked in by doing a little gag visit because he was the set and then got sucked into being part of the show, from what I understand. I don't know. But Waterflame of the Arashari says, for everybody here, how hard was it to decide not to make a poll? Yes, indeed, you do.
By the way.
So, I, Satine, am an overachiever. I like to do the things I'm supposed to do, and it's my turn. I'm supposed to make a pool. But Sat taps into high school Sat teen who is like, I'm sorry, you said what? And very careless about the consequences. And yeah, it was weird exiting me and really being the sat and saying, oh, no, you didn't. Let me tell you about the thing. And then sacrificing everybody. I feel like I ruined the whole thing.
Oh my God, the sacrifices. I'm not even going to go to the direction of what could have happened if that moment didn't.
Well,
if
there
that
is a
moment didn't
question
occur.
here from Salbarostro of the Arashari. For Ivan, was there ever a chance that the ritual would fail? What would you have done if the players hadn't figured it out?
Oh, the end ritual?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew exactly what was going to happen if they didn't finish the ritual. So, because we put a timer on it. Like, I mean, they had a certain span of time in which to find that last block, to be able to finish the ritual, even just to have the clue to finish the ritual. And had it not happened the way it was, it would have 100% been a total TPK. Like, everyone would have been consumed by the darkness, ripped apart, and eaten by the Agatha, who was the avatar of the darkness. So there would not have been anybody left if they didn't make that final pull.
Except Simon and his mom.
Well, Simon, no, he wouldn't have been around anymore. Maybe a different version of Simon.
A version
but,
of Simon.
You know. sorry to tell you guys, but you definitely all escaped death by finding that.
Well, Anima Visionary asks, to internet sensation Amy Nolan, how does Raina feel now about Darby's mental state after witnessing what her madness brought to the party?
Well, it's weird because, like, it's weird to be grateful for something that was torturing you. Although, like, obviously, like, I learned a lot about trusting your insight. But the other, like, the sort of hard truth is that, like, the kind of, like, negativity or self-destructive tendencies, like, that's not a thing that magically goes away. So I assume, like, that's part of our lifelong struggle is, like, staying healthy takes work, like, whether or not supernatural things intervene. So I don't know. I think it did teach me to trust you, but it also, like, made me more committed to sort of helping you through that shit, because it's really hard stuff.
Yeah, the whole basis for getting obsessed with the Goatman, I touched on it a little bit, but what it comes from is sometimes in traumatic situations, it's just about having control or having yourself, having an identity. And when you feel like that's gone, there's a certain part of your brain that forms another identity, and you more listen to that identity, and you're like, oh, thank God, someone else is in control of my life. And it sounds crazy, but it actually, I feel like it's from trauma, and you just don't trust yourself anymore, and you prefer to let this other thing that is a machination of your own mind take that control, and that's where the Goatman came from. Now, in healthy situations, you take yourself back, and you realize, I don't think there's ever a moment when you don't know that that's actually happening, but when you are able to take yourself back and, like, make your own life, then that's a healthier way to be. But yeah, that fucker's always there.
Adam, this is a very strong case. Here's a question from me. Did you have to push them at all, or did you just sit back and let them go?
No, I think as far as pushing the talent, Ivan really was leading the pushing of their boundaries. And I think, for myself, it was communicating with Ivan to push, or him telling me, I want to push this, as we were trying to map our story happening real time. I mean, this cast really, I don't think you could have hoped for anything more with how much they were pushing each other as well, And so they're awesome. They're awesome, by the way.
Agreed.
It really was like a fire and forget. Like, I felt like I did my entire job in the pre-setup, and then once they got there, they were all just all heat-seeking missiles towards each other's emotions.
That's really heat-seeking missiles. That's it.
Heat-seeking missiles of emotion. Another name for your book, Heat-seeking missiles of emotion. Jay Penrose wants to know, Ivan, Marisha, and Adam, what was the Goatman inspired by? Was there a folktale? Was it just pure imagination? Was there an actual Goatman that said, I'd like to be in the show? And you went, we're over budget, so you have to bow out.
Oh my God. You know what? Just for that, I'm not answering the question.
Okay, That's very fair. And you know what? You didn't get my goat. Hi, I'm Darren, and welcome to More Questions and Talks About Goats. I'd like to know, let's go back in time. The Goatman. What inspired it?
There was definitely inspiration in it, and I'm a particular fan. Like when I was going through this and trying to pull that one beautiful inspiration to kind of have it all pan out, I read so many short stories, and at that time I was reading a lot of like the collection anthology of Stephen King short stories, and then I remember there was a time for a while in which I went deeply into Reddit No Sleep. If any of you are familiar with Reddit No Sleep, you know, and there was a couple of stories about skinwalkers that were a part of Reddit No Sleep, and I just loved it. And there was a couple people who got it. Like there was a few people on Twitter or on chat who 100% realized it because some of the coppery smell and the sounds and the mimicry of the voice, a lot of that came from Anastasi's Goatman, which was a creepypasta, a very, very popular creepypasta. And I liked that concept so much. And since they had started to form this great relationship, like the whole concept when we were doing ITTD was like, oh, they're friends on a camping trip. It's like, okay, well, what is the greatest threat towards friends at a camping trip? Playing them against each other. Okay, well, what's a good thing that does something like that? Oh, someone that impersonates each other in order to do that. Oh, well, okay, well, what would be the motivation around that? Okay, well, yeah, that was the rabbit hole that I went down, essentially, when trying to design this Goatman that would eventually have its own motivations as the monsters grow, as they do when you tell more stories. But originally, that full concept was just to make something that really made them not trust each other. So,
well, speaking of designs, Lily Hellpop would like to know how you each came up with the designs for your costume. Or was that something you did not come up with?
That was me. I searched, all 80s awesome things that I loved, actually, and I would put together these decks, and I sent them to each one of the characters and said, hey, can you please wear this? Except for Matt, he had kind of his own plan for his wardrobe, but everyone else I kind of did it, and then we bought pieces that they needed to fill in the gaps, and they kind of brought the stuff, but I pushed for it, and Amy's hair and Amy Warple's hair. I pushed all their hair, and I wanted Townsend to give me the mohawk and go as far as we could. So that was me, but they all brought it. That's for sure.
When I called him immediately. I got the deck and I called him immediately, and I was like, Adam, hey, you don't know me. I really want to lean into this. I got the suit. I'm going to look really dumb. I just want you to know, and I don't want to ruin your vision. I'm going to look so stupid. This is and obviously it wasn't, but there you go.
People were cosplaying it. It's a striking, wonderful look.
I know. I've leaned into my forehead since then.
I have to give a shout out to it was an awesome thing. Like, shout out to Gina DeVivo, who did the actual finding of my entire outfit from her closet. Yeah, because she's just rad like that. It was really interesting for me because you sent that sort of here's kind of what we're thinking, and I was sort of like, oh, that's really different from what I did for Tabletop Day, and then that became for me like, oh, that's what Raina did this year. She just pretended real hard. She went away to college. She transformed herself out of this aggressive need for everything to be fine. And so it became like a cool thing where I was like, oh, who is the girl who a year ago was that girl? And a year later is like, side pony. It's like,
You're putting on that side pony. You're like, Adam, this won't look good on me. I'm like, Amy, it's no problem. We're just going to put it on you. And if we all hate it, we'll just take it right off. And then it was so cute.
We're all terribly insecure. Sorry. That's
included.
Sean and I, we always have a thing we like to say. We feel like the characters, if you're doing it right, people will cosplay as your characters. And so that was kind of what always our goal was. And it's happened now. And so it's like, oh, that's awesome. But yeah, we just wanted very distinct looks. And Adam did great putting together
We
lookbook
just
for
went
sure.
Shopping. We were
Yeah,
like,
you did.
Literally.
Yeah, you did.
this is like I could be me, like 15 years ago. It's totally.
Yeah, we went on a shopping trip. It was great.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And not to shun like you sent these great kind of designs over, and I looked at it and it was like I could see each person was what the design and idea was for a very unique visual perspective to each character to pop a little more than how he'd established it. And then I thought about it and went, Tanner would be exactly the person to not really be that different or interesting. He would be the one who's kind of set in his ways, who his parents probably wear the same type of clothes they did in the 50s or 60s. He had nowhere near the exuberance anybody else that are severe shift in personality or lifestyle. So I was like, these are cool designs. He would wear the same shirt probably.
I love that. The part and the glasses.
Oh,
it totally
Tanner
works.
just wore the same shirt he did last year, man.
Yeah.
So.
You said that Darby looks like she should be in a ska band or
Yeah. I was trying to you were like, say something mean. I'm like,
Yes.
you look like you're trying to invent ska. What is wrong with you? I'm not ready to be mean yet. We're still in the makeup chair.
The name of Darby's ska band.
Go goat time.
I was like, Mighty Go Boys.
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
I
You're
love-
rubbing off on me, Dan.
No, we're all doing this. It's a safe space. Now, Apodia, did you ever make it more elaborate? Did you ever use costumes when you guys played? Or was it just we're playing as friends?
I use candles from time to time. I mean, but which is, I mean, not the safest thing in the world.
The falling Jenga tower.
Yeah. I have seen. I mean, I've seen some really amazing things that people have done. Other than, but like most of the time when I'm running it at a convention, and it's like 1 out of 7 or 8 I'm doing that day, and I've had it. I just want to sit down and play the game, and but like I might now. I mean, honestly, like watching what went on, I was like, okay. How do I do this? But like, I would need Adam. I would need because I think
Well, the
this
fun
is
thing is you had more fire in your candle than we did in our set. That's all digital fire.
Right, yeah.
I didn't want to dare actually hurt anybody in real life, so you were way more dangerous than us.
And the thing is, there are no wrong answers. You play the way you want.
Yeah.
That's what makes it more exciting.
I think it was really interesting watching, for instance, watching how Ivan ran it, which is very different from how I run it. Particularly, we were talking earlier about talking, almost giving an internal monologue while people are working the tower, which you would have to do. When I'm at the table and we don't have an audience, we're not streaming anywhere, I can sit back and we just let everyone enjoy the game aspect of it. They just get to go, ooh, or ah, but you can't do that, right? Like you have to keep the story going. And
that was a lot of coming to that conclusion actually came from more of a production need at the time, because I was like, okay, well, they're going to have a big tower. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be very involved. It's probably not going to be terribly interesting that they're just going to be in silence watching these blocks being pulled. And so, I was telling Adam this really early off the start. I'm like, we got to fill that empty space. So
I'm shocked by this because Marisha, you were speaking to it before we got out here, but like, I cannot imagine playing this game without the terrifying Ivan monologue, which we were all in awe, I think, of the way that like you can just endlessly be like perfectly in character and contributing to the atmosphere for whatever length of time it takes us to like panic and circle the thing. And like, I don't know how you did it, but like, I can't imagine doing it any other way.
When I run the game, I spend that time thinking what I'm going to do next. I couldn't possibly run my mouth like that. And that's like, Epi's break time. Yeah, everyone else, you go enjoy the game.
So here's the thing about Ivan. I think he's hungry for it now because we were at the Gen Con party and they had these 2 Jenga towers and it was amazing and super scary in flashbacks. But this guy goes to take a pull and Ivan we waited for Ivan to get there and he goes to take a pull and Ivan just starts talking in his ear. He's not even on. There's no well, there was a camera, but yeah, he just went, and the guy was like, "Oh God," and he went in, and that's Ivan now. That's what Ivan looks
you
like.
know, it did become addicting after a while. Like just kind of watching as like it would start to be like, okay, I'm coming from a pole, and then like the consternation would come in, and then like the shoulders would come in, and I would just like slowly watch this process of everyone just like going into the tower and breaking into it. Yeah, it was very satisfying.
It's aggressively unnerving, like really unnerving. It makes it much harder, and definitely it induces some panic.
Yeah, it adds a bit of challenge to it. Plus, inevitably, you always have that player here and there who takes way too long on their pull of the Jenga tower, and it's a really good way to just continue to ramp the intensity and make them really want to pull that because just please shut up, you're yelling in my ear.
Yeah, no, it's a good, and that was a byproduct too. I didn't even realize it either. It's like it does put a timer on it, and you know, and to your point, like having to have to do that does remove any kind of like thinking of what's going forward. So I'm totally denying myself break time, but it's fine because it's a great payout.
Yeah,
So
I do think you guys have like all communally change the way people look at a Jenga tower from here on out, though, to the point of where like Matt and I have seen Jenga towers just like at parties or something, you know, or at a park, and we'll see one and it's like now, because it's already a stressful game, and then you basically just added more stress on top of it. So yeah, well done.
Well done
Yeah.
indeed. Matthew, top 3 songs on Tanner's non-existent mixtape for SAT.
Oh man.
That's from me, and I don't know where it came from, but hi. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm trying to think time period specific.
Yeah, I was sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. I would say Big Empty, Stone Temple Pilots.
I'll look like I know that one. Oh yeah.
It's a good song.
That's a good one. That's got that music in it. It's big and empty.
To get a little esoteric, probably Riverman by Nick Drake.
The big empty, yeah.
And I don't know. Like I'm trying to think what my musical taste of that era wouldn't necessarily fall entirely, so I'm gonna pick a bit obtusely. I would say a third one would be
Show tune? Anything Dixieland?
yeah. Help me out here, Darren.
America the Beautiful?
Let me come back to that. I just take a little bit of thought to that. It's a good thought, but yeah, got 2 out of 3.
The top 3 songs on Raina's non-existent mixtape for Darby that aren't Empty Bigness and River Guy. I don't know songs. I was I did musical theater, and I would listen. Chicken Man is back. I listened to Chicken Man on the radio. I did not get dates. Thank you, Deborah, for marrying me. Okay. Top 3 songs. They could be period specific, or maybe she traveled to the mysterious future.
That's a great question. Like I know Raina's taste in general, like she would have been very like 70s singer-songwriter, like, and then probably until her freshman year in college where she'd be like, what came out literally a month ago? I'm into it. But like, I don't know, like for you, it would have been songs you love. And I'm not sure what's Darby's musical taste like.
Ska.
How about, I think she's probably a bit old-fashioned. What if we a little bit of I think the Beatles is a really great.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. Okay.
They were big.
Yeah.
On Ed Sullivan.
Like Eleanor Rigby is actually a pretty romantic
Why
song.
didn't you say Eleanor Rigby? I know that one.
Got a better one now.
Okay, let's take it back. Okay.
Die With You by Typo Negative.
I'm not your friend anymore. She says Eleanor Rigby, and you're like, I'll do another one Darren's never heard of, because Darren doesn't hear of things.
I grew up in the 90s.
That's wonderful, my friend. Excellent. Okay, another song maybe. What do you
So
think?
the Beatles song would probably be what's the title? In My Life.
Oh, okay.
That would be on there for sure.
Okay.
And then not appearing on it would be Sympathy for the Devil.
Caden, top 3 songs on Caden's non-existent mixtape to himself.
I had a playlist that I played on the way into the studio. I'm trying to remember what was on it. The big one, my favorite one for him that really got me jazzed up was Human Fly, the Cramps. So that was a really good one. I ran a little bit of Misfits. Attitude, that's a good one. I had a little bit of Black Flag running as well.
It's a very potent pesticide.
Yeah, Human Fly is the most Caden song I could possibly
Don't
think
want
of.
Black Flag and Human Fly together because
TV Party. I ran TV Party too a little bit, which that's just got a great. We've got nothing better to do. Yeah, TV Party. That's great. Just yeah, it's really. I know, very so typical, so typical. Nothing interesting.
if Sat could sing a song to Tanner, what would the title be? You know, because she's an artistic person, if she could craft a song, what would the theme or the title be? You don't have to sing anything.
If I had only known.
See, that's great.
That's part of therapy.
Scary songs about Goatman, what would they be called?
Scary songs?
Yeah.
Well, they're not scary. They're friendship songs.
Yeah, do you think that Goatman was there to help you?
Well, of course, from the get-go. Yeah, of
From the
course.
get-go?
From the get-goat.
Goat.
I love you, man.
Well, you do fabulous songs. I love them. What would be the first line of a song celebrating our friend, our TV pal, the Goatman?
From the heavens, guidance calls.
Dang, that's good.
What was after the game? You were singing a song on the steps of the cabin post game when we were all like coming down.
Jason Charles Miller and I sang on that set because it was lending itself towards a song, and we sang "The Rage Within," which was a darker song that we had written during our time on Foreververse when we were playing Werewolf.
It was one of my favorites.
That was really lovely.
Thank you.
Would you have liked to have seen music play more of a part in this?
So interesting
Yeah.
thing about that.
These are artistic characters, and they're at a moment.
If you're pitching Dread the musical, we're in.
I remember.
Yeah, and I would say probably the same way you're talking. From a production standpoint, music's messy to edit.
True.
This sounds expensive as well.
yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
we're
I
talking
know.
about.
But if they had created their own.
But just like everyone here said, we were so intensely focused on each other and the story and the
Yeah.
narrative that Ivan was running that I don't think it really made much of a difference whatsoever. It may have even been a distraction at times.
Yes.
There are some games that lend well from atmosphere, but I think the set pieces, the commitment of everybody that came in, the trust we had, and the way that you said a story, we didn't need it.
Yeah.
There were crickets that got onto the set
Love the crickets.
that were not supposed to be there,
there was a cat
but they just worked out with atmosphere. Yeah, and there was that cat that didn't show up all day until like the last moment we were there, and we were like, "Oh shit!" There's
a studio cat.
the whole time.
Yeah, there's just a studio cat walking around.
Oh.
He's just hanging
That
out.
was like, your time is up.
It was an omen.
6 o'clock, you guys are out.
The one thing that we did with sound that was nice was when you guys turned on the radio.
Yeah.
Remember, and you heard the sounds of the native battle.
Sound cues were cool.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. That is a special thing, but I agree. Music, no.
We didn't need it.
Yeah, and it makes the show uneditable. So.
And actually, Adam often has to remind me, no sound stuff, So, sound bits.
I'll give that to you later. I'll give that to you later. Just
Yeah.
I got overexcited.
Yeah.
We were on the music thing, and I'm like, keep going with the music thing. I pulled, I died, I could not work a bow.
And the set was so immersive. Like I said, the Flip This Bitch guys just did so well, and with
Yes.
like your lighting team and the whole. Yeah, and we duved out all of the sides, so it was completely black. Everything was totally black and dark. And we had some like fog going in there. So when you guys were on the set, it felt like you were camping.
Yeah.
And to the point of where, you know, and especially being so immersed in your characters, and as everyone can hear and see, you know, it was hot that day. It was
very hot.
It was humid.
Did that help with the acting?
ACs run. I couldn't have any.
The heat? Did the heat
Yeah.
help with the acting? Did it?
Oh, heat never helps.
no.
with
I don't make you
acting.
tired, but did it ramp up the tensions
In
at
fact,
all?
we had to make sure at one point when we learned that there was an AC in the space, we're like, go get it.
Yeah, we ran
need
and
it.
got, and got giant HVACs that were portable, and that was actually one of the things that Sean and I did to answer your question from earlier. Yeah, we basically ran around and tried to set up air conditioning while they.
Yeah,
you
and
guys
then,
went,
and then
yeah.
Matt, because I was shivering, put a jacket on me. I was so hot, and I was like, "Thank you." I know,
And it meant that it wasn't on me anymore. I got a break.
genius. I know.
See?
Oh, we thought it was a friendly thing.
It was mostly.
Mostly. They come out mostly
Helping
at
you
night.
out.
Mostly.
It was very immersive. It was like you barely could feel that you were anywhere other than there. I'm like even like throwing that rock after I threw it. I'm like, oh God, I hope I didn't just break something. I'm indoors. I shouldn't be throwing stones.
I wanted you to break something.
I was terrified I was going to hit a light after I threw it. Like I heard thump, and I'm like, oh God.
But that was all of you. What you created for us on that day was like just a spectacular, like just the feeling of safety of like, not only were all of you completely in, where like no one was ever going to be like, oh, you made that face, like, oh, you're trying that, like it was the furthest thing from the entire experience, and you like, we just dealt with Ivan and got to live in that world. Like, I love that you ask us questions about this and we all just immediately start talking about our characters. It's not like, oh, and the craft services was excellent, which it was, but like that's not what we remember.
Just so you know.
Like,
Yeah, shout out to Tracy. Nailed it with the
Yeah.
crafty. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to butcher this name. I apologize. Elanahak123 for Ivan and Caden. Did Caden have his own Goatman? What were his plans if he was the only survivor?
Caden was never going to be the only survivor.
No, Caden, I was ready for Caden to be the first to go.
Ooh.
You know, under a lot of
Caden-
circumstances. The fact that he kept surviving shocked me.
Yeah. No, Caden.
Trying to kill you is what he's saying.
Well, I was trying to kill all of you. That's one of the
Caden was
point.
trying to kill himself. Like he went in there. That was a suicide run. He was not gonna
To be
allow
100%
himself to
totally
survive.
honest with you, Taliesin, especially like I didn't know how that final challenge with the pole was going to be, but I was ready for you to just drop kick that tower.
I was tempted.
Yeah,
I was very tempted. That was the plan.
right, because we had talked about that.
Yeah, the plan was to drop kick the
So
tower.
what stopped you?
I thought I'd make a pull and see how it goes, and just at that point of having already experienced one death was kind of like I'm suddenly feeling human connection for the first time in a year. Shit. They need me alive just to get the rest of them out. Okay, now it's about getting them out and not about dying just for a minute.
Which was great, which was almost
That
better.
was a shift.
There's
Yeah.
good in him, Anakin.
Oh yeah, he was just very man.
It was better to see the resolve of your arc in that moment
I was not expecting it.
than it was to kind of like see what the path of where it could have gone. Like when you started having that like kind of breaky downy moment with Sat, where it was like, just get him out, just get him out, just get him out. That was the first time that it was like, oh yes, this is coming to a beautiful arc conclusion. Now let's see what happens.
He was not supposed to survive to see that ever.
Well, here's a technical question from Barbary again. What was actually in the barrel that Amy had to reach into for the rocks?
Ooh, Adam, do you want to answer that
It
one?
was food. It was all the food. It was so much food. There was salsa and soup and congealed XYZ, and because I remember smelling it, being like. I was convinced there was a piranha in there. I was convinced that there was like something that was going to eat me.
I couldn't afford
It was a budget.
Yeah,
they're like,
I
"Let's
know,
get a
but the
bra."
worms had me scared. But no, it was just Tracy King is the person I think
Yeah,
to
Tracy
go to
King.
for that. She
committed to putting that challenge together.
What she'd done is she put in there essentially kind of she rated the food and crafty tables and poured all kinds of nastiness in there, plus sort of rallied around the stage and pulled other nastiness in there.
When I described it to Tracy, she goes, "Oh, really? Well, it wasn't supposed to be like that because it had all settled, and it once you get to that layer, you're like everything is there. So like the corn and everything starts feeling the same but different, and it did feel slimy. Yeah, corn.
It was pretty. It was about, and I like.
The name of her ska band. Corn. Does that add to the horror, or does that take you out of the game when something like that happens?
It 100% adds to it. Yeah, I think that was all very helpful. I think every challenge was helpful to the horror, and we all got to experience one or two things, right?
Arenas, the lock. We kept doing the lock. That lock would not open. We kept trying and trying. I think you cut a lot of that out.
There was something really satisfying about like that we were just sitting there trying. You gave us the numbers for the combination, and we like in that moment we were literally just trying combinations to get that thing open. Like, and it was like no acting required. We were just sitting there being like, "What the hell?" And like right around the time you would have had to probably give up and try to help us. I don't know what you would have done. Like literally, it was the last one we tried, and it friggin' worked.
Well, in 6 episodes, these characters, these situations, they made an impact on a lot of people. What kind of impact did they make on you guys? Because I know with Critical Role, a longer campaign. With Doctor Who, a longer campaign. Vast, longer campaigns. This is a short one, and yet it meant so much. What will you take away?
Oh, man. From my personal experience with Tanner, it was understanding that every person outside of yourself has their own weakness and sorrowful story to tell. He was so keyed into his own narrative and himself, as much as he liked to pride himself on being, an empathic person. He thought this Mother Hen caricature, he didn't allow himself to see past the exterior from a lot of people outside, and I think that was a very unhealthy, very kind of white knighting for Sat type mentality that I'm very much hope to avoid for the rest of my life.
Thank you.
The takeaway for me from the game, it's been absolutely incredible to see everyone like take it into their hearts. But I guess for me it was like I had never played with this particular set of people. I don't think I met you before the first Tabletop Day Dread game, and like I feel like we're family now, in just a permanent way that like I know I'm gonna really cherish.
I think learning from Darby, it would be there's not enough time not to love the person that you love.
I'll say from Caden, I found an awful lot of empathy for these young men that I knew when I was growing up in high school, who were I kind of idolized a little bit when I was much younger, until I realized just how sort of damaged and vicious they were, and found some empathy for that mindset and for kind of the horror that was behind it. And then I'll also say just working and playing with all of you was just spectacular, and is one of those things that is impossible to forget.
Yes, that was so complicated. It was like alternate universe Satine if she went down the wrong way, just kept doing the drugs and not doing that. So I've been recovered from that myself as a person for about, a decade or so. But going through that, I haven't thought about it in a long time, and it was a way to remind me that, oh yeah, you've made the right choices. Just keep being a do-gooder and keep doing those things. So that's what I personally took from Sat. But on a bigger scale, like Sat and like all of us, we were so singular in our experiences that we were always trying to communicate what we were going through with each other. and forgetting to listen to each other. And so in my real life, I spend so much time with Rudy working every single day on our company and what we're doing. And I forgot that I have friends that I love who I haven't seen in so long. And then there's new friends who I fell in love with and that are so much fun. And yeah, we play professionally, but outside of professionally, like we can still play and we need to play. Like it is so important to play so that now, I mean, I've seen more friends in the last couple months since doing this than I've seen in years. So that always play, just keep playing because that's what life's about.
Well, that's theater. That's why they call it a play. It's supposed to be that. It's supposed to be in the moment and full of love. What would you take away? Honestly, everybody.
I don't know. I mean, in an odd way, I kind of feel like I've found a purpose in a sense that I've never really, like, I went to school to be a director, like, just like every other jerk who moves out of their hometown to come to LA to find something amazing in their world. And I was never really comfortable. Like, I tried it, I worked hard. You know, I've had 10 different jobs in the 10 years that I've been in LA. I've just been diving and looking at all these different things and just exploring. Because that's sometimes what you have to do in order to find the place where you're going to be. And honestly, it was during this process, and especially during this game, I never felt more like I finally found where I want to be than in that process. I never felt more like a director when I was sitting and talking to all of you, figuring out what the process was going to be. And I never felt more like this is truly happiness than putting together the show.
Well, we put together Ren in like 2 days.
It was
and
wonderful.
You directed it all, and we wrote it together, and we wrote it on the fly, and it was an exhilarating day of let's just make something happen.
I've never been more blessed to work with talented, amazing individuals and have a crew that gets shit done like you don't even believe.
Yeah.
And then be able to have that ability and responsibility to be able to put something like that together. And thank you. Is all I have to say. You know?
Oh man, you made me all emotional. I'm like all teary over here. Damn, yeah. I mean, it's hard to top what everyone else has already said. I will say, like, seeing you really blossom has just been amazing. Like, you really have. You really have. Yeah, I don't know. Like I was saying earlier, like,
Spores.
My voice is getting all shaky because I'm getting emotional. I can hear it. Yeah, just we kind of took a chance on this one. I think that's kind of what I am really taking away. Is like, damn, we took a big risk on this, and then we like rushed it. It was so damn rushed, and the amount that we cranked, like we did something pretty crazy in a fairly short amount of time. And yeah, I think just trying, like, I don't know, like what Darren was saying, like taking the risks to try something new. And like, we're very blessed to have not only a safe space to do that, but safe people to work with. And that was huge. And yeah, just seeing the way the audience has responded and people getting like fucking dread tattoos. That's fucking bananas. Do what you dread. Like it's been very impactful in a crazy way that you don't get out of every project. And I like I said, I wasn't joking when I said at the top of the night where I feel like everyone just brought their A game, and like this is like the tip of the spear right here.
It's the next step in what can be done in this space here. It's the evolution of what can be done here.
And like Lawson, like there's no other directors who can direct RPG shows the way you like. They're really like, it's weird, like between Ivan being like pretty much one of the only horror DMs you could ever see, and like what you did in like this space, and like our creators, like we kind of ended up being a collection of people who there's no one else like us out there, and it was everyone's top skills kind of coming together in like the perfect storm.
We all trained for this, and we all thought we were wasting our time.
100%. Yeah.
We played a lot of games, and we did a lot of theater, and we were like, these things will never go together.
Yeah. You got your peanut butter in my chocolate.
Although I did say at the panel too, and I firmly believe this, that there's acting training and all of that. But if anybody, I really strongly believe that if any person were under Ivan's care as a GM, you were not safe. Like you would have cried, you would have had the emotions, you would have been frightened out of your mind. I think that I could have gone to school for nothing, and I still would have had a very similar experience.
Good point. Play yourselves.
Yeah, I think, I am not one, but I do love actors deeply. I love them very much, and I love what they bring to the table more than almost anyone else, even though my crew and all the other people bring a lot. But actors bring a vulnerable part of themselves, and so for me to sit with this team of actors who really laid it all out, laid their guts all out, in this ride that we took, that touched me. And that reminded me of once again, of why I love this and why I'm so addicted to my work, is because I got to be in that. And so that was my takeaway from it.
Apodia.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about game design. I apologize because
That's what this is about.
Yeah, because there's a thing that happens to me every so often where I as I'm designing games, I hit a point and I'm really excited about what I'm doing, and then I get a new experience, and I have to change gears, and I have to start designing a different way. And I think just witnessing this show has made me change how I'm thinking about how I'm doing design. Because I wouldn't design something that would force someone to have all of this to enjoy the game or play it. But I would definitely now, while designing games, design games that would allow for that to happen, right? To leave spaces for this sort of thing, because I would love to see more of this. Like this is crazy. Like this is amazing. So, I mean, it's going to take a while to sit in and find out what that is and to figure out what I want to do for that. But I definitely feel that moment coming to me again, where I have to just put it in neutral and figure out where my next gear is. So,
With
thank you
all
guys.
of you, it was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was heartbreaking. It connected with an audience, which is what we want to do as performers and artists. And, bravo to each and every one of you. I was a small part of it, and I'm so proud that I got to play a little part in it. No, you guys are truly...
I was going to say, there's nothing small about the man who sets the mood at the beginning of every single episode.
But you guys are the soul of it. And just sitting back and watching it and experiencing it as an audience member, it was thrilling. And in 6 episodes, without, thinking, doubting yourself, because you didn't have time, you just moved forward. What you did, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And thank you for sharing this night and for dressing up, because I tend to dress like a dum-dum. And everyone looks wonderful. And I hope you enjoyed yourselves, because I certainly did. I loved getting to know you guys. And we have one more question. This is for me? One more question for me? Okay. Darren, you're very handsome. Your role as Ren was really good. Thank you. Is there anything you can tell us about a second season of Sagas of Sundry? Yes, there is.
A new tale of terror is coming, one that challenges your perception of reality. It will twist and bend your mind, like an ardent screw being drilled into the dark wood of your understanding of how the world really works. Will our new residents make it out? Will they even want to, after what happens? These are the Sagas of Sundry. I am Mr. Wren, and there will be madness.
Thank you, everybody. This was a lot of love. This was a thrill. This was One Night Only. Good night.